DCS World is a very difficult game.
Contact.
It is so hard, in fact, that a new player would understandably assume you need to spend a lot of money, not just on the game, but also on a fancy hands-on throttle and stick, or HOTAS, just to get started. Unfortunately, not everyone has that kind of money, or if they do, not everyone is willing to spend it on something they just want to try. So, what are your options? Well, first off, DCS comes with two free planes, the SU-25T Frogfoot and TF-51D Mustang, as well as two free maps, Caucasus and Marianas. On top of this, DCS also offers a 2-week free trial period as part of their Standalone edition, where anyone can try a select number of aircraft for 2 weeks before deciding to make a purchase. And finally, there are also fantastic community-made mods for DCS. In particular, I'm a big fan of the A4EC scooter that can be downloaded for free. Link is in the description. Now, I can hear you saying free planes and maps is great and all, but don't I still need a HOTAS? And well, that's the neat thing. You don't. If you have a simple gamepad like an Xbox or PlayStation controller lying around, you'll be able to enjoy everything DCS has to offer. And that's where this video tutorial comes in. With the help of Steam, you'll be able to unlock your controller's full potential by allowing your gamepad to control the mouse. This will give you two huge benefits that are not possible in DCS out of the box. The first benefit? You are no longer forced to use the absolute camera bindings that recenter your view when letting go of the thumbstick. Instead, mouse control will allow you to look around the cockpit and have the camera stay put when you let go of the thumbstick, which is great for the second huge benefit. By toggling from camera control to cursor control, you will be able to click around your cockpit without ever having to reach for your mouse. Then, toggling back will allow you to control the camera once again. Now that we know why we're doing this, let's finally go over how to do this. To set up mouse control on your gamepad using the Steam controller configurator, the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure you have DCS added to your Steam library by either downloading and installing the DCS World Steam Edition, or if you have DCS World Standalone version, which is the version you can download from their website, you can go to Games, add a non-Steam game to my library, and in this list you're going to want to find your copy of DCS Standalone. In my case, I have two options. One is the DCS EXE, and the second is the DCS Updater EXE. It is up to you which one you want to use, but for ease of use, I like to choose the Updater EXE. That way, anytime I launch this copy of DCS, it attempts to update it before actually playing it. So we will choose that, add selected programs, and there you have it. You have either a Steam edition or a standalone version. Now, this is very important. If you are using DCS Standalone, you need to make sure that this has been set up correctly, because in my case, if I click on the play button, you'll see that it failed to launch DCS Open Beta Update. Now, why is this? Click on OK, right-click on your DCS Standalone library entry, go to Properties, and here you'll notice that in my case, the Program Files folder location is incorrect. This exe file is actually located in the non-x86 location. So if DCS fails to launch, what you want to do is you want to click on Browse, go to the correct directory for your DCS installation. In my case, it's going to be under the C drive, Program Files, Eagle Dynamics, DCS World Open Beta, Bin, and then you want to select the file you want to launch via Steam. In my case, like I said before, I like to use the DCS Updater EXE. Select that file, click on Open, verify that the path is now updated for both the target and start in file paths, close this, and now it will launch successfully. And there it is. Now that said, I have run into an issue where my PlayStation controller was not being detected by DCS if it was connected via Bluetooth and also being ran via the Updater EXE. So one workaround is to just simply plug in your PlayStation controller using a USB cable, or an alternative solution is if you want to continue using Bluetooth, instead run DCS using the regular EXE and not the Updater. Now, the downside to this is that if you decide to go this route, you will not be able to update DCS by running this first option. You can only update it by running the updater. So a way to get around this is to simply add both of them as selected programs. And just like before, with these now added, we also need to double check and make sure that the directory is pointed to the right location. In my case, since I know this is the incorrect directory, all I really need to do is remove the offending text. In this case, I know once I remove x86, it will be pointing to the correct location as indicated by the updated image for the DCS.exe file. I have to do the same thing for the next directory, then close this, and then do the same thing for the updater. So right click, properties, delete the x86 part, including the parentheses, because when you do that, the picture is updated. Same thing for the start in. And because I only want this launcher to only update DCS and not actually play DCS, what I need to do is I need to add update to the end of the target. And from here, we can close this and double check by hitting play on the updater that all this does is attempt to update DCS without launching it. Hit OK. And sure enough, DCS isn't launching. So this is a dedicated updater option. And this is a dedicated Let's Play DCS option. Now, of course, keep in mind this is only really an issue if you're using standalone DCS. If you are using the Steam edition of DCS, you do not have to worry about these two steps. So once DCS has been added to your library, the next thing you want to do is go to Steam, Settings, Controller, General Controller Settings, and from this menu, select the configuration support option that applies to your Gamepad device. So for example, if you have a DualShock or DualSense controller, you'll want to check the checkbox for the PlayStation configuration support option. If you have an Xbox controller or X input device of some kind, you'll want to check the checkbox for the Xbox configuration support option. Also, with this selected, you have the option to also enable Xbox extended feature support, which is meant for the Xbox core controllers that you find for Xbox Series S or X. Basically, this allows you to use the share button in addition to the start and select buttons. In my case, I like to use this. And note, once you have selected that option, it will ask you if you want to restart now in order to complete the installation. In my case, I'm just going to do this later because I don't feel like restarting at the moment. Also, if you happen to have a Switch Pro controller, technically you can use that as well. I don't recommend it for DCS. And generic gamepad configuration support is for gamepads that do not apply above. So your mileage may vary for this. I don't have one of these, so I don't know if it'll work. So once you've set this up and set the checkboxes that apply to your devices, go ahead and click on Back, click on OK. And the next step will depend on the version of DCS you have installed. In the case of DCS World Steam Edition, you want to right-click, go to Properties, then go to Controller, and you want to make sure that Use Default Settings is selected for the Override for DCS World Steam Edition option. So if it is not set to this, you want to click this dropdown and click on Use Default Settings. Go ahead and close this. For the DCS World Standalone version, you do not have to worry about this. Now that we have the basic controller configuration set up, we will now need to turn on our gamepad device. Once the gamepad is enabled, you'll see a pop-up on the right-hand side confirming that it is in fact turned on. If you do not see this, if you go to Steam, Settings, it's likely because you have this box checked that says Disable Controller Connected Notifications. If you have this checked, then you didn't get the pop-up. The way that you know the gamepad is connected is if you were to right-click on your version of DCS that's installed, then you go to Manage, then you should now have an option that says Controller Layout. If you are using the standalone version of DCS, you'll want to right-click on the launcher that actually plays DCS. So if you set up your launcher to only run the updater, which will update and launch DCS, you'll want to right-click, go to Manage, and select this controller layout option. Or if you set it up so that you have a dedicated launcher and a dedicated updater, you want to right-click on the launcher, go to Manage, and select this controller layout. And here we have the Steam Controller Configurator new UI recently released by Valve. This new UI is the reason why I'm even making this video in the first place, and that is to replace my previous video which was using the old UI. So first up, we're going to be going over how to set up mouse control on our Xbox controller. If you use a PlayStation controller, go to this timestamp to move on to your section. to kick things off, first thing we're going to do is go to Template. Using the LB and RB buttons, we can shift between the different tabs. In our case, we want the Templates tab, and then we're just going to simply select the default Gamepad template. That way we're all starting from the same starting point. Next, let's go to Edit Layout. Then we'll go to Buttons. Then we will go down to the Bumpers section. And here, let's go ahead and select the Options button for left bumper. And then select Add Extra Command. Here, we'll set this command to the mouse, right mouse click. Then we'll do the same thing for right bumper. Go to Options, Add Extra Command, go to Mouse, and then set this to left mouse click. That way, the left bumper acts as both a left bumper and a right mouse click, and then right bumper will both act as a right bumper as well as left mouse click. And next, you'll notice that there is a separate section for menu buttons, and here you'll see that there's a total of 3. You'll see Select, Start, and Take Screenshot. This Take Screenshot option is only available if you have an Xbox Core for Series X and S consoles. If you don't have this, for example an Xbox One controller, then this doesn't apply, but if you do, I like to change the default Take Screenshot to something that's a little more useful. In my case, I'm going to change this to something on the keyboard that is already used as a modifier in DCS. In my case, I like to set this to left control. With the button bindings now complete, let's shift over to joysticks. Here, for the first option for the default right joystick behavior, let's change this from the normal joystick to joystick mouse. Then if we go one step below and go to right stick click, we'll add a command, and for this we'll just simply set it back to right stick click. Then let's go back up, go to the Options button for joystick mouse, and we'll fine-tune this to our preferences. In my case, I go to General, and I like to change the mouse sensitivity to 400%. So to edit this value, press Y, and then we'll simply enter 400, and then done. Now keep in mind, this is my preference. You don't have to use 400% mouse sensitivity. Some people enjoy having a less sensitive mouse, so adjust this per your tastes. Next, let's go down to the stick response curve, and we'll change this from wide to custom curve. And then for the custom response curve value, we'll edit the value by pressing Y. And once again, this is up to you and your preferences, but what I like to use is simply 70. And then next, let's go to the left, go down to dead zones. And for dead zone, change it from the default to custom. And here, it is up to you what value you want to use. Maybe the default value was actually good, but in my case, I like to set a custom dead zone inner of 1200 or 1200. Again, maybe this isn't enough for you and you'll find that your mouse is drifting even when you're not touching it. If so, increase this value to something higher like 2000 or even 3000. With that now set, let's go back, and now we need to add a second right joystick behavior using a shift modifier. To do that, go to joystick mouse, go down until you reach the create mode shift, select that. With that selected, now you'll find there is a separate right joystick mode shift section. Go ahead and select joystick mouse and change this to a normal joystick. For right stick click, once again, add command and just set it to the normal right stick click. And then next, go to the options icon for this joystick. Go to General, then set the mode shift button to left bumper. At this point, you can leave it alone, but if you want to add a dead zone, you can go to dead zones and set this to default or custom. I don't bother doing this because I can set the dead zone in DCS, so this is up to you. Go back, then go back, and you're done. Next, we'll be going over how to set up everything that we just did, but with a PlayStation controller. Keep in mind, everything is effectively exactly the same as what we did for the Xbox controller, with the only difference being the names of the buttons we're using. So to kick things off, let's go ahead and go to Templates, and then go down to the Default Template Gamepad option. This way, we all start off with a standard gamepad template. Next, let's go to Edit Layout, go to the Buttons section, go down to the Bumpers, go to the Options icon for the left bumper, go down to Add Extra Command, and set this to the mouse, right mouse click. Then do the same thing for right bumper. Go to Options, go down to Add Extra Command, go to Mouse, and then set this to left mouse click. That way, L1 acts as both a left bumper as well as a right mouse click, and R1 acts as both a right bumper and left mouse click. If you scroll down to the menu buttons options, you have a total of 3 buttons that you can configure. In this case, we have a select, a start, and our mic button that does not currently have a command set to this. If you would like to set this to something on the keyboard, I recommend adding a command under keyboard and use a key that is used as a modifier in DCS by default. In my case, I like to set this to left control. With the buttons now set up, let's move on to joysticks. Here, we'll change the default right joystick behavior from joystick to joystick mouse. Next, let's go to R3 click, add a command, and set this back to the standard right stick click. Next, let's go to the Options button for joystick mouse, and then we'll go to General and change the mouse sensitivity to whatever your preference is. In my case, I like to use 400%. Again, if you prefer a less sensitive mouse, you could leave it at the default or even lower it. It's all based on your tastes. Next, go down to Stick Response Curve and set this to Custom Curve and change the Custom Response Curve value from 200 to whatever your preference is. In my case, I like to set this to 70. Next, go to the left, go down to Dead Zones, and change, if you want to, the default dead zone from default to custom, and then set the dead zone inner to some value that applies to your thumbstick. In my case, I like to set a dead zone inner value of 1200 or 1200. If you find that your mouse drifts while you're in-game, you may have to increase this value to as high as 2000 or even 3000, so adjust based on your thumbstick. Go back, and next we'll have to add a shift mode modifier for the right joystick. To do that, select joystick mouse, and go all the way down until you reach Create a Mode Shift. Go down to the new section that was just created for right joystick mode shift and set it from joystick mouse back to joystick. Then for R3 click, once again, we'll go to Gamepad and simply set this back to the right stick click. And then under Options for joystick, we'll go to General and set the Mode Shift button to left bumper. This should be all you need to do, but if you want to, you can also go to Dead Zones and set a dead zone value. I personally don't bother doing this because I can simply set up a dead zone value in DCS. Then go back, and you're done. With mouse control now set up on your gamepad, go ahead and close this window, and then launch DCS so that we can confirm it is actually working. Using DCS, let's go ahead and confirm that our mouse controls are in fact working. So at the main menu, let's just make sure that we can use the right stick to move the mouse. Simply give it a twirl and see the mouse move. Perfect. Next, let's also make sure that the mouse does not move while you're holding the left bumper. If you hold the left bumper or L1 and then move the right stick, it should not move. So that's perfect. Now we need to confirm that the left and right mouse click actually work. So to do that, let's go ahead and mouse over to Instant Action and then use the right bumper or R1. And sure enough, it clicked the option for instant action. Next, let's go down to TF51D, ensure we've got the Caucasus map selected, and then choose Cold Start in Krimsk. With the mission loaded, go ahead and click on the green fly button, and now we are in the cockpit of the TF51D Mustang. Now the next thing we should actually make sure to bind is going to be a very important key binding that will allow us to switch from cursor control to camera movement. So to do that, hit Escape, go to Adjust Controls, and then look for this action called Clickable Mouse Cockpit Mode on and off. For me, in most of my modules, I like to set this to the right modifier and right stick click. So to do that, let's go to Modifiers, go to Left Modifiers section, click on the Add button, go to Device Name, click on the Xbox 360 for Windows device. Since we've set up our controller through Steam, all our controllers will look like this in DCS. And then click on the button you want to set as a modifier. In this case, we want to set the right bumper or R1 as a modifier. Then click on OK. Then we can actually do this again, but for the left bumper or L1. So click on Add, Again, select the Xbox 360 for Windows device, and then press left bumper or L1, and then hit OK. Then hit OK, and then for clickable mouse cockpit mode on and off, double-click the cell underneath the Xbox 360 for Windows device, double-click that, press the button we want to set to it, which is going to be right stick click, and then set it behind the modifier we want to have it behind, and that is going to be the right modifier, or R1 or RB. Then hit OK, hit OK, and now if we press and hold R1 or RB and then press the right stick click, we can switch from cursor control to camera control. And now we can freely look around using the right stick. And now, if we look at this particular control in the cockpit of the TF-51D Mustang and press clickable mouse cockpit mode back to cursor control, we can now mouse over to that switch and test that both left mouse click and right mouse click work. So if we left mouse click it, it should move to the left. And if you right mouse click, it should move to the right. And there you have it. One last thing I wanted to point out is that because we set it up so that the right stick controls the mouse, and only when you hold the left bumper does the right stick become a right stick again, when you try to bind something to a right stick action, you have to make sure to hold the left bumper while attempting to bind it. So for example, if I wanted to bind the throttle designator horizontal and vertical axes in the F/A-18C Hornet, I would have to press the left bumper to add it as modifier, but if I move the right stick left and right for the horizontal axis, you'll notice it's not being picked up automatically. That is because I need to hold left bumper and then move the right stick left and right before it can be detected by DCS. Same thing with vertical. So once again, if I just press left bumper and then don't hold it down and attempt to move the stick up and down, it's not being detected. However, if I press and hold left bumper and then move the stick up and down, it is now detected and assigned as the axis for this control. So hit OK, and then you can just do the usual and tune it as desired. In my case, I like to set this to a dead zone of 10, and invert the y-axis and hit OK. And now you'll be able to do things like, for example, in the Hornet's case, use the throttle designator controller slew to control, for example, a radar. And that's about it for setting up and using the Steam controller configurator. From this point forward, you should be able to set up bindings for any module I've created a gamepad layout for. Check the description below for a link to those gamepad layouts, and also in the description is my how to get started using a gamepad tutorial, which will walk you through the entire binding process using the F/A-18C Hornet as an example. Thank you all for watching. If you liked this video, please leave a like. If you really liked it and would like to see more of this kind of stuff, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and tune in next time for some more DCS World tutorial videos. Take care guys, have a nice day.